Well, Nick Holland, the Chief Executive of GoldFields, is with us in the studio on a day when your share price bounced big, 16%. Nick, how do you see, you told us a little earlier about the interaction you're having with some of your shareholders, but how do you see a company like yours in these times? Is it an opportunity perhaps for longer term holders to start buying in, or do you feel it's more of a trading stock?
No, I believe that there's significant fundamental value in the stock that's not recognized in the share price. You know, it's quite simple. If I add up the fundamental value of all of our assets on just what we see, hard value, it's nowhere near the share price. It's much, much greater.
Calculated at the current gold price?
Yes, at the current gold price, absolutely.
And what is your projection for the gold price? Where do you get to see it next year?
Look, if I look at where gold is today, it's actually underperformed and it's actually been disappointing. You know, when the oil price got up to around $140 a barrel, you know, gold didn't perform. And yet when oil comes down, it drags gold down with it. So we haven't seen gold perform yet, but having said that, we're seeing things like negative real interest rates around the globe. The supply side in gold is contracting, and I think with the credit crisis we've got now, a lot of projects that were going to go probably aren't going to go anymore, because you can't do equity issuance, you can't do debt issuance, and on the demand side, we're seeing physical demand at almost record levels. So for some reason it's not translating through into gold yet, but I think for the same reasons you said earlier, you have leads and lags, and sometimes it takes time for it to filter through. I believe gold will go through $1,000 and stay there during the course of 2009.
Well through, or just touch 1,000?
I wouldn't say beyond 1,000. You know, some people will say it should be much higher. I'd be very grateful with 1,000, because right now the industry at 800, or we're at 764 today, I think, the industry doesn't make any money after you take the all-in costs into account. So just to actually restore the margin and keep this industry going, we need something close to 1,000.
What about those projects? GoldFields is known to, well, has announced a number of big investments into the future. Are you reconsidering? Not
at all. I think South Deep in particular we see as a wonderful investment going forward. You know, we're committed to spend $1 billion over the next 6 years. Cerro Corona is basically done. That's coming to production. The Tarkwa expansion's done. No, so it's really the South Deep one. Driefontein Deeps we have deferred because of power constraints. I guess if power was available, you know, these sort of rand prices, we'd have to think seriously about doing that project into the future as well.
You do mention in your results today that the power costs were up 20%. Are you seeing even more expensive power in future?
I think it's inevitable in our country that power is going to go up. I would expect that power is probably going to double over the next 4 or 5 years. And simply put, you know, if Eskom is going to balance the books, you know, tariffs are going to have to be one of the ways they do it, so they have to go up.
Generally speaking, though, in this past quarter, you were squeezed by problems with safety, or investments that you're having to make to up the safety standards at GoldFields Limited. And so as a result of that and lower production, your profits fell sharply compared with last year, only to about a quarter of the level. Is the previous quarter, that is the 3 months to the end of June, is that likely to be the high water mark in profits, and this quarter maybe below the norm?
No, look, I think the quarter we've just had and the quarter we're going to have now were always expected to be poor. And I flagged this back at the end of July, that the next 2 quarters are going to be very tough for GoldFields, because I've had to put in a lot of safety measures. I've had to pull back production and fix things. But it's looking good that we're going to finish most of that by the end of the year. Plus the new projects are coming through, as I mentioned, in South America, in Ghana, in Australia. And I think by the March quarter, we're going to see our production up 25% from where it is now. And if these prices hold in rand terms, in Australian dollar terms, and even if we just maintain sort of $800 per ounce in US dollar terms, we are well placed to make good cash generation by March. So I'm actually quite bullish.
Those are very aggressive targets for the March quarter. How comfortable are you that there isn't something that can derail you? In other words, what kind of visibility do you have within the company?
Oh, I look at all of these numbers every day. I interrogate them often. And I thought long and hard about putting these numbers out, but in my mind there's no reason why GoldFields shouldn't achieve that. You know, if you look back a year, GoldFields in the December quarter of 2007, produced 960,000 ounces attributable, even without the projects. Then we had the power crisis. Clearly we lost some production. We pulled back out of some higher risk areas that I wasn't happy with. But getting back to 4 million ounces, I think that's the minimum level that GoldFields should get to.
He's aggressive. Just for those who haven't had a chance to go through the numbers in much detail, GoldFields is projecting that in the March quarter next year it'll go to 1 million ounces, and that's from 800,000 ounces in the current 3-month period, and that the costs will come down to $725 an ounce. It's an all-in cost from over $900 an ounce at the moment. So those are pretty aggressive, but you can see the numbers are there and shareholders can write them in.
I believe so, and it's our commitment to deliver that.
Just to close off with South Deep mine, the old Brett Keble mine, that many people have criticized GoldFields for going ahead and buying it in the first place, that perhaps A, you overpaid, and secondly, the mine itself is going to be very difficult to bring to account. How are you answering shareholders who feel that way?
Well, we've got a plan to get that mine to full production by the end of 2014. And we are building all of the blocks and putting that all in place to make sure we can achieve that. The ore body is still a fantastic ore body. And the one thing that gives me a lot of hope about South Deep, it's not going to be the same kind of deep level mining as we've seen before. It's going to be fully mechanized. In fact, it's already fully mechanized, and that's going to make it safer, much more productive, and we can produce the same gold that we're producing at Driefontein with probably 1/5 of the people, but they're going to be much more skilled in what they're doing, much more productive, much safer, because we're using machinery and we're taking men away from the face. So if it wasn't for that, I don't think this would be something we'd want to do, but it is something different, and I think this could be the greatest deep level mechanized gold mine in the world when we get this to full production.